All rise, please. Oyez. All persons having any matter to present before the Honorable Judges of the United States District Court in and for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania may at present appear, and they shall be heard. God save the United States of America in this honorable court. Court is now in session. Please be seated.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the bench and the bar, distinguished guests, friends and colleagues of Judge McHugh, I wish you all a warm welcome. Today, the court is in session for a most pleasant occasion, the investiture of Gerald A. McHugh as the 97th Article III Judge of the United States Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. This is a truly historic occasion, as Judge McHugh began his legal career by working as a judicial law clerk to the Honorable Alfred L. Luongo, who later became the court's chief judge. This marks only the third time in our court's history that a former judicial law clerk in this court has been appointed by the President to serve on the bench, the other two being Judge Luongo himself and Judge Harvey Bartle, who is currently serving on this court. Judge McHugh is joined today by his wife of 37 years, Maureen Tate, their 4 children and their spouses, his sisters, and many members of their extended family. Too many to mention. I would also like to welcome distinguished guests who will join us in this celebration. Today we have assembled many of Pennsylvania's most celebrated judicial and public officials. We are joined by the Honorable Theodore McKee, Chief Judge of the Third Circuit, the Honorable Edward Rendell, former Pennsylvania Governor, the Honorable James Fitzgerald, retired Pennsylvania Supreme Court Judge, the Honorable Kate Ford Elliott, President Judge Emeritus of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. I think it should be Superior Court. The Honorable Dominic Pileggi, Majority Leader of the Pennsylvania Senate. The Honorable Stuart Greenleaf, Chair of the Pennsylvania Senate Judiciary Committee. The Honorable James Roebuck, State Representative. Honorable Dennis O'Brien, Philadelphia Councilman, and other council people. Honorable Janie Blackwell, Honorable Patrick Murphy, former U.S. Congressman, and many other members of the Pennsylvania Judiciary. At this time, I would like to welcome several distinguished guests who will honor us today with remarks. And I understand that Senator Casey is deferring to Senator Toomey because Senator Toomey may have to leave before we can conclude it. So Senator Toomey, we'll hear from you first.
May it please the court. Chief Judge Tucker, members of the bench, Senator Casey, thank you for allowing me to go out of order. Senator Greenleaf, other distinguished guests, Judge McHugh, and members of the McHugh family. Well, I'm delighted to be here. Delighted to be here to be witness to this ceremony and to participate in the celebration of really what is a great day. This is the second time I've had the occasion to attend a ceremony like this in just about a week. Judges are no doubt sick of seeing me, but I'm delighted to be here for a couple of reasons. Most importantly, because we've got a great Pennsylvanian who's joining this court, and that's a day that we should celebrate. But I'm also delighted to be here because, as we have all seen, it seems sometimes in Washington that it's hard to get Democrats and Republicans to agree that today is Friday. Senator Casey and I, despite that environment, I think it's fair to say, certainly from my perspective, have got a terrific working relationship. And while there's plenty we disagree on, we spend our time focusing on the areas where we can find agreement and where we can work together. And one of the most satisfying areas for me in this regard has been the work that we've done to find some terrific Pennsylvanians to serve on the federal bench. And so since I have joined the Senate just less than 4 years ago, together Senator Casey and I have been able to recommend, to participate in the confirmation of, and to witness the installation of 11 judges now. And I'm delighted that we've been able to do that. In this case, when we recommended Gerald McHugh to the president, he nominated Gerald, and then within just a few months, the Senate confirmed him. And so this is an example, really, of where the Senate's actually functioning properly. And so I hope you forgive me for taking a victory lap, because it happens rarely enough that I feel like I should. I also want to take a quick moment to say a special thanks to some of the folks who really help in this process. And that is the folks who volunteer for our selection panel. These are generally people with a great deal of experience in the law, but they can come from all walks of life. And they take the time to vet the many candidates who've put their name forward, to do the background research and check, to do the interviewing, and to make recommendations to Senator Casey and to myself. And the gentleman that I've asked to be the co-chair for my side in this effort is John Sirocco, and I saw John earlier today. And I just want to publicly thank John and all of the people who serve in this capacity, because it is helping us to fill the vacancies appropriately, as quickly as we reasonably can, and I appreciate their help. Let me just say a couple things about Gerald McHugh briefly. Article 2 of the Constitution gives to the Senate the responsibility of advising the President, and when we deem it appropriate, to consent to the President's nominees to the federal bench. And I think that's a very, very important and serious responsibility, especially in light of the fact that these folks serve for the remainder of their life. So when I'm looking at candidates and thinking about the qualifications, there's three categories that I am most concerned about. One is whether or not a candidate has the intellect and the legal background to be able to do the job. It's a very demanding job. It's very challenging. And that's an important threshold question. The second is the person's character. And the person's character and the person's integrity has to be just really beyond question. And then finally, it's important to me that a person that we confirm to this role be someone who understands the role of a judge. And by that I mean understands that the role of a judge is limited in our constitutional system. Judges don't write the laws. They don't make up the laws. But what they do is they apply the laws objectively and fairly to everyone who comes before them. So in the course of this whole process, I've gotten to know Gerald McHugh a bit, and there's just no question that he would rise to the top of any list on all three categories. Unquestioned intellect, a great background with the law in many different capacities, a character that has gotten rave reviews from the many people that we need to check with in this process, and we have checked with. I'm particularly impressed by the commitment that Gerald McHugh has demonstrated to giving something back to his community and the volunteer work that he's done in a variety of ways. And in my conversations with him, there's no doubt in my mind that he has a very deep commitment to executing the role of a judge exactly as it's intended by our constitutional system. So I can stand here and say without any doubt and with great enthusiasm, I'm confident that Gerald McHugh will be a great judge, will be a great addition to this court. I'm delighted to be able to play a small role in this whole process. And on behalf of my colleagues who can't be here from the United States Senate and the people across the Commonwealth, I just want to say congratulations and best wishes to you, Gerald McHugh.
Now we'll hear from Senator Robert Casey, Jr.
May it please the Court, Chief Judge Tucker, distinguished members of the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, judges throughout the room, state judges, judges on the Court of Appeals, Judge McKee, who I saw earlier, United States Attorney Zane Meminger, who's here, Senator Toomey, and I want to incorporate by reference everything Senator Toomey said. We're going to take another victory lap, but I think you know what we're talking about. I'm grateful to work with him in a place where, meaning Washington, a place that is not always confused for a sea of tranquility. We've worked together on these appointments, and I'm grateful to do that, and we have more work to do. So I'm grateful for that working relationship. I know that Senator Greenleaf will follow me to the microphone in a couple of minutes. I saw Senator Pileggi as well. For the McHugh family, I'll start with Maureen. Maureen, this is one of the few times I'll say your name first. Is that okay? No, but we're honored to be with Maureen and Judge McHugh. And a couple of times in my brief remarks, I'll refer to him as Jerry. I won't be able to do that ever again. But I'm so grateful, Jerry, to be here on what is a happy day for you and for your family, obviously. We're thinking of your dad today, thinking of the great legacy that he left and what this means to your whole family. But I think it's also a great day for this court, for the bar, the trial bar here in Philadelphia, and the bar overall. And it's certainly a great day for our Commonwealth and our country. I know that we have clergy in the room, so I'll walk on this next part of my speech with great trepidation. But Jerry was Jesuit educated. I won't comment further on that. I was Jesuit educated too. We can't always, those of us who are in the laity, can't always find the scriptural reference, but I know enough about the Beatitudes that it's in the New Testament. But the beautiful words of the Beatitudes, one of them I think applies to Jerry and his work, but applies to so many in this room, be they judges or not. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for justice, for they shall be satisfied. A wonderful summation of what justice should be, that it is not automatic, that it doesn't just play out on its own, that we need people in our society, not just in the public realm but otherwise, who will indeed hunger and thirst and work towards the ends of justice. I believe if you look at Jerry's biography in the program today, or if you've known him well beyond the printed biography, his work as an advocate, as a lawyer, as a community volunteer, as a builder, really as a citizen, is a testament to that line from the Beatitudes. Indeed, in so many ways, he has throughout his career hungered and thirsted for justice and has achieved it in many ways. But I know that hunger and that thirst will continue in his work on with the federal judiciary. And I think when you look at his work up to this point in his life, and I know he's been, on the bench since May the 20th, but even prior to that, of course, when you look at Jerry's record, it's not just justice in a broad sense, not just the justice that should flow from a speech or from work that you do, but really justice, it means you have to fight pretty hard. Whether it's justice for the poor or the imprisoned, justice for the indigent or the injured, or justice for the young who are so often vulnerable in our society today, and as well, justice for the aged, who are too often forgotten. And you could add some other examples as well. A number of years ago, just a couple years before he passed away, my father wrote a book about his life. A lot of good stories in it, too, about politics and about life. But he talked about the responsibility of public officials. And anyone in here is a public official, I think, is challenged by this. But he said the most important quality you can have when you're in a position of public responsibility is a passion for justice and a sense of outrage in the face of injustice. And I think Jerry understands that. His life is evidence of that as an advocate and as a lawyer, and I know that will continue on the bench. We often think, with all due respect to the clergy who are in the room, the priests or rabbis or nuns or ministers in the room, we sometimes, I think, limit ministry to those callings. I believe that if you're in the public realm, you too have a kind of ministry if you're doing the right thing every day. And I believe that the ministry of a judge is to, as best you can, in the work that you do, is to bring the light of justice to the dark corners of the world. Jerry understands that. I know his family had something to do with teaching him that. And I know that we have great expectations that I have no doubt will be realized in the years ahead, that he will do his best to be passionate about that justice, to bring the light of justice to the dark corners of the world. So, Jerry, we wish you the best of luck in our prayers this day and always. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Casey. We will now hear from Mr. Litvin, Gerald Litvin.
Senator Tibby, Senator Casey, Chief Judge Tucker, members of the federal, state judiciary, present and past members of our political system, our government, and all of the family and friends of Jerry McHugh who are here assembled. 34 years ago, I began practicing law with Jerry McHugh. In the beginning, I was the mentor. I was 25 years his senior, and I think, or I hope I taught him a few things as we went along in the practice of law. But then a curious reversal of roles occurred. Didn't take too many years. When I literally began learning more from Jerry McHugh than he possibly could have learned from me. What I want to discuss with you today, for the time allotted me, is not what Jerry taught me. That process is continuing. I still have some contact with him, and I'm young enough to still learn. And he's a great teacher. But what I wanted to talk to you about is why he has been my role model over the years, and I believe the role model of the lawyers and others who worked with him and those who worked against him. But first, I want to talk for a few minutes about wisdom. Jerry McHugh is not only very smart. I mean, we all know a lot of smart people. Some of them are even lawyers. But he is one of those rare people who, in my opinion, is a true intellectual. When I say rare, I have only known a handful of intellectuals in my life. Maybe you've been more fortunate. But Jerry is someone who can appreciate the scope and magnitude of whatever situation presents itself. He identifies the factors at play in whatever the situation is. He focuses in a logical and skillful and adroit way upon the factors that have created the situation. And then he begins to deal with the best solution. And he has that ability to understand the consequences of the decisions. His rich background, and you know this, in history, in religion, in philosophy, and morality, give him multiple vantage points from which to judge whatever situations arise in his life as a lawyer, sure as a judge, and in his everyday life. The depth sorry, I'm reading a speech. The depth of his thinking generates admiration and respect from his peers, from his co-workers, and opposing counsel alike. I'm not suggesting, of course, that Jerry's conclusions and decisions are infallible, only that they are always mature, unbiased, and wise. What he does is governed by reason, not by emotion. Next, altruism. There are a lot of good people in the world, people who like to help others, who make charitable contributions, who want to help the needy. But if altruism is looking for a poster boy, that's got to start and end with Gerald A. McHugh. Concern for the less fortunate of the world and finding ways to address the needs of his community is not what Jerry does, it's what Jerry is. And those of you who know him can validate that. And in case you don't already know it, his wife Maureen Kate, and their 4 children, Laura, Amy, Colleen, and Michael, are equally committed to finding justice and doing what they can to help their communities and help the world. That's the core of the McHugh family structure. Listening to what Senator Casey said about the Jesuits, watching Jerry closely over the years, I've been tempted sometimes to try to become a Jesuit. Now, Jerry's grandchildren are still too young to join in an active quest for justice. But I expect great things from them also when they get to be 6 or 7 years old. Now there's a question of temperament. Although Jerry has always shown a passion for whatever cause he espouses, I don't think I've ever seen this man angry. As a matter of fact, I don't remember too many times over the decades when I even heard him raise his voice. As a trial lawyer, he always faced opposing lawyers whose job it was to defeat him. And yet, he didn't have enemies, he had opponents. He always treated the lawyers against whom he fought with the same respect, the same courtesy, the same dignity as he would extend to his partners and friends. That's what Jerry McHugh is about. Not was, is. Well, if I can't turn this page, it's going to be a very abbreviated presentation. Jerry, as you know, has never been full of himself. If he tells a joke on someone, he's telling a joke on himself. Lawyers who appear before him will find a judge who is courteous, even-tempered, considerate, and well, whatever that quality is, that is the precise, exact opposite of arrogance. That's what they're going to find. And finally, I want to talk for a moment or two about integrity. I have been referring to our honoree as Jerry or Jerry McHugh, and of course now, in recent months, he has a new title, the Honorable Gerald A. McHugh, Judge of the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. Well, the judge part is new. But honorable, the honorable, that's what he has been all his life. And all of you in this room who have had any dealings with Jerry on a personal or professional level know that his reputation for integrity decency, objectivity, and honor is what has earned him the respect that he enjoys among judges, among lawyers, among the clergy, among all of us who have known him. Judge McHugh, we know you will be an outstanding jurist. We know that the wisdom, the compassion, the integrity that have defined you in the past will continue to define you as a federal judge. And all of us wish you and your family a life of good health and happiness that you all so well deserve. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Lippman. We will now hear from Catherine Carr from the Community Legal Services.
May it please the court. Good night. Good afternoon. I said good night. I'm already blessed. Good afternoon, judges, the McHugh Tate family, colleagues, all the distinguished guests. I am Kathy Carr, a friend, classmate, neighbor, colleague, and really just a total fan of Jerry McHugh's. And I'm so honored and pleased to be here today to say a few words about this wonderful man. It's hard to say a few words about this wonderful man because there's so many to say. He's already proving he's going to be a wonderful judge. I speak today with just great joy. I think it's joy and excitement that is bringing this huge crowd together today. For we know that it's a great day for American justice that he has finally arrived on the bench. This day was a long time coming for many of us, and especially for Jerry. But the wait can now just add to our sense of celebration. There's so much good stuff to say about Jerry because there's just so much good stuff that he's done, so much good about him. You've heard it from the people who preceded me. We all probably know those people in our lives about whom we say, you know, how do they do all of this? Do they ever sleep? Can they really be so successful in so many different ways? And well, that's Jerry. Jerry's just one of those. He's good at so many things. And actually, I really don't think he sleeps all that much. First, of course, he's a brilliant lawyer. And I say that in the broadest sense of what a lawyer is. And many of you in the room know that about Jerry. But I really want to get to say it out loud today in front of his family. I was at Jerry's sister's house a few weeks ago and eating peach pie. And when I asked Jerry's niece Maury, the pretty 20-something over there, one of the many pretty somethings over there, a non-lawyer, if she was excited about today's event, she asked me to explain a bit what the fuss was all about. And as I talked about Jerry's becoming a federal judge, I realized that in Jerry's family, he's just another regular guy. He can be pretty funny and fun. He cooks a pretty good chicken cacciatore, and he knows his wine, but he's not one who expects glory or appreciation. And we can count on his wife, Maureen, to make sure he stays that way. So anyway, I tried to explain a bit to niece Maury who the professional Jerry is, just how respected, how important, how effective, how beloved he is in our legal community. So Maury, listen up. And let's see if I can do Uncle Jerry justice. As I was saying, Jerry's a brilliant lawyer. We non-family members here know that some lawyers are fabulous on their feet in the courtroom, and others are just great with substantive law and research and analysis. And then there's some that are just great as legislative advocates. Some are great negotiators or mediators. But Maury, what's remarkable about Uncle Jerry is that he has been among the very, very best at each one of those things. He is a sought-after teacher of how to behave in a courtroom. He not only knows Pennsylvania tort law, but he really wrote the book on it, the research treatise on Pennsylvania tort law. And he also wrote some of those laws himself, at least 6 of them that I know of. Now, tort law is not without its landmines. It's national political football. But when hard issues had to be addressed in the state legislature, people from all perspectives relied on Jerry to get things done. And he was willing to step directly into that political fray. Jerry knew how to advocate, but he also knew how to compromise. And he came out of this difficult work with respect from all sides. My own work with Jerry has been in the public interest law world, so I'm going to focus on that and not all his success in the courtroom. But mind you, Maury, there was great success in the courtroom. And it has been recognized by a huge collection of awards and fellowships and accolades. There were just a few of them in the program. Jerry hides all the plaques and the bowls and all that stuff in some very big closet somewhere. But I do want to point out one fact. In an annual survey conducted by Philadelphia Magazine, in every year since 2004, fellow lawyers in Pennsylvania have voted him one of the top 10 attorneys in the state. Every year since 2004. Now, there are a lot of attorneys in the state. There are a lot of attorneys in this room. So being consistently picked for that honor by one's peers is an incredible achievement. So back to Jerry's public interest work. I'm the Director of Community Legal Services, the largest legal aid organization in Philadelphia, and Jerry has been simply critical to our work to provide Philadelphia's poorest residents with access to justice in the court and with a voice in poverty policies and systems change. Jerry has been the private bar leader for over 20 years in our fundraising efforts. He founded and then he led the CLS with its bar fundraising campaign every single year. He has happily done the grunt work of making phone calls to law firms to ask them for money, and he has always put his money where his mouth is, making leadership gifts to demonstrate his commitment to our work. When he couldn't do it all, or someone else had had enough, he helped us identify and sometimes strong-arm other bar leaders into working on our campaign. They have a hard time turning us down when they see all that Jerry has done. When we kicked off a campaign to build a new building in North Philadelphia to provide our impoverished clients with a building that really provided them the dignity they deserved, Jerry, with his wife Maureen, were among the very first to step up with a significant gift to make that building a reality. The whole public interest community across the state has benefited from Jerry's work. He has not only served on, but has chaired the 2 biggest funding agency boards in this state, the IOLTA board and PLAN, the Pennsylvania Legal Assistance Network board. In addition, he was a powerful chair of the Philadelphia Bar Foundation board, where he revamped organizational procedures and priorities and doubled the endowment during his term, really focusing on how to best serve the grantee public interest organizations. Having someone of Jerry's professional stature and skills involved as an active, high-level leader has been invaluable to the civil legal aid community. He has understood the terrible lack of resources that plagues our efforts to provide lawyers for the poor, and has been a leader in pushing forward numerous initiatives to support our work, ranging from new court rules and legislation to generate revenues, to student loan assistance programs, to a help desk for tenants facing eviction. And he's always available for advice and counsel as our community deals with some legal or political or diplomatic issues or crises. He takes phone calls at a moment's notice and gives us his wisdom. And as Jerry Litvin explained, what wisdom it is. Remarkably, Jerry has financed 3 fellowships to enable new and talented public interest lawyers to start out their careers in Philadelphia. And in his typical self-effacing fashion, Jerry named these fellowships not after himself, but after his treasured mentors, Jerry Litvin and Dennis Suplee. Jerry has always heaped praise on the people in the public interest bar, humbly downplaying the work he does for us, even as he did more, providing public interest staff training and advocacy skills, speaking at our continuing legal education sessions, finding us high-powered speakers, like the senator here, for our fundraising events, and perhaps most significantly, taking on difficult client cases pro bono. I want to tell you about one of those. It's a great illustration of the depth of Jerry's commitment and generosity. Jerry volunteered to represent a teenager facing deportation under the Special Immigrant Juvenile Status Exception. This was a child whose family was exceptionally troubled, with one parent dead, the other dealing drugs. A child who wanted to stay in the only country he really knew and succeed in high school. When no foster family could be found for the teen, Jerry and his wife simply decided they would take him into their own West Philly home. So Jerry stepped down as counsel, accepted family court appointment as a guardian, and they took the teen into their home for a year, thereby enabling him to qualify for a green card and ultimately for citizenship. Jerry has always cared deeply about people facing difficult times. He has had a special concern for prisoners, and soon after we graduated from law school, having already authored a book about prison ministries as an undergraduate, he established a halfway house for re-entering citizens, which he personally funded for years. Just how amazing is that? Ask all the 20-somethings here in the room. An ability to set up and run a home for prisoners when you were in your 20s, that just illustrates how Jerry's compassion for others in need, his deep belief in justice for all, powerfully combine a vision with action that he just makes things happen. But of course, compassion has its limits, and Jerry knows that. Even as Jerry sees the good in people, he understands the harm of the bad things people can do, and is willing to stand up to it in a dramatic and powerful way when necessary. Some years ago, during the crack epidemic, drug dealing was going on in a stop-and-go store around the corner from Jerry's house. Jerry, as always the leader, helped organize nighttime vigils outside the store to face down the dealers, and then pushed forward nuisance litigation to stop the trade, volunteering to be the named plaintiff, even as he helped frame the legal claims and consulted with the district attorney's office. Jerry had a vision of justice for his neighborhood, and he put his life on the line to see it realized. He is as tough as he is brilliant, as determined as he is strategic, and he uses all these strengths to work for what is right. All of this will, of course, make Jerry a fabulous judge. He is an independent thinker, defying labels, but always looking for justice. I cannot finish without saying just a bit about Jerry's relationship with his family and with his neighborhood. And for Jerry, family and neighborhood are very much intertwined. He has lived within the same few block neighborhood all his life. His great-grandfather lived there. He is a fifth-generation West Philadelphian. One of his sisters is there, and his parents lived there until their death. Most successful trial lawyers might have moved into fancier neighborhoods, perhaps with a big yard and a pool and the country club nearby. Jerry and Maureen instead spent their money and their time on their many good works. And importantly, they do not see this as a sacrifice, but as a gift. Living in West Philly, and I admit I'm biased, I live right there too, means you have neighbors of all races, classes, ages, and persuasions. There are urban farms and co-ops. There are tofu hoagies. We have a variety in body art and nose rings and even genders. We have refugees who speak many languages, struggling seniors and families, esoteric academics, and yes, federal judges. Jerry's not the first. We had Judge Higginbottom around the corner. Living in West Philly pushes us to remember every day the diversity that is America, both fabulous and challenging, and that there is a huge need for privileged and talented people to give of themselves. That is where Judge Jerry will go home every day, home to Maureen Tate, herself an incredible force of brains, goodness, and action in this neighborhood. That is where he will make dinner for his 4 wonderful children, all of whom you've heard a little bit about. And that is where he will tend another community garden, be a leader in service to his church, and remember his parents who took care of the community long before him. That is where he will find love and support from his large and similarly wonderful family to face the demands of this new job he is taking on, a new job that he will do with courage, conviction, and compassion, a job that he will do just splendidly in the pursuit of justice. Congratulations to Judge Jerry, and congratulations to America that this man of justice is now our judge.
Thank you, Ms. Carr. Now we'll hear from Senator Greenlee.
The report, please, Chief Judge Tucker and members of the Eastern District and other judges that are here, both federal and state, elected officials, and of course, wonderful United States Senator Casey, who's a compassionate individual. He has all the qualities that his father had, which I knew very well, and he is a compassionate heart too. And of course, Senator Toomey is a similar person and worked great together, the both of you. Thank you for your service. You might wonder why I'm here. And Catherine, thank you so much for your words. You took the words and thoughts out of my mouth and mind, because that's my friend, Jerry McHugh. If you don't mind, I'll call you Jerry. And Jerry McHugh, is that okay? And he is my friend. You know, as the years as I've served in the legislature for a long time, and Jerry was, of all those things that you just heard about him, he had another quality, and that was he was an advocate at all levels for the downtrodden, the people without power, without standing. He was always there for them, and he was always advocating for them. And I really have kind of a mixed emotion being here today, because I don't want to lose Jerry. And but that's what's going to happen. So on the one hand, the federal judiciary is going to gain a tremendous lawyer and judge and person. On the other hand, the Commonwealth is the loser here. Not that you're going to go anywhere, but you are not going to be advocating for us, for the people who need that have no voice for themselves, both in the courts and both in the legislature and the Commonwealth. He's been at it for decades. I have just a little record here of just some of the things that he's been involved in, and our friendship developed during that process, because I saw him at work, and he always had a smile on his face. He was always compassionate. He was always kind, but he also was very strong and always came up with answers that we needed. In 1984, he redrafted the Pennsylvania statute of limitations for claims by minors, reforming the law to protect the rights of children. Of course, what do you expect? He's going to protect the rights of children. In 1996, the legislature unanimously passed amendments to the Pennsylvania Wrongful Death Act, drafted by Jerry, preserving the rights of families of fatal accident victims. He was the legislative leader that asked him to participate in the revision of Pennsylvania's law on medical malpractice in 1996 and again in 2002. And in 2002, he revised the law concerning the liability of volunteer doctors protecting physicians who donate their time while preserving patients' rights. He's been recognized by the national bar associations and national groups, trial lawyers. He was been recognized by his peers here in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia trial lawyers, the Philadelphia bar associations. He has mentored attorneys, young attorneys, as a lawyer should and as a judge should. And I remember one quote that I have from him that he said was that young lawyers, the advice that he gave the young lawyers, just be honest with others and they will trust you and will accept what you say is true. And he's followed that canon all his life. And so in the legislature, that's all important. If your word isn't good, you have no effectiveness in the legislature. Probably nowhere else in the world, in our society either. But that was the motto that he followed, and everybody took it. What he said is true because he had the intellect and the wisdom, but he also had the honesty and the trust of the legislature. So I'm just here to say, Jerry, and may God's light continue to flow out of you and be seen through you as you work here and as you do your job here as a judge in the Federal District, the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. God bless you.
Thank you, Senator. And lastly, we'll hear from Regina Foley from Rains McCarthy.
May it please the Court, Chief Judge Tucker, members of the judiciary. It is my honor to be here today with so many colleagues, friends, distinguished guests, and proud members of Jerry's family, Maureen, Laura, Amy, Colleen, and Michael. This is your day too. This is a great day not only for Judge McHugh and his family, but also for this district and this federal bench. As has been said, it's a day that has been a long time in the making, not only because Jerry had to run the marathon that is the nomination and confirmation process, but also because many would say that this is Jerry's destiny. This day, this ceremony, this court. It's also my honor to be here today as a speaker, to follow the likes of Jerry Litvin and Kathy Carr and Senator Greenleaf and Senator Casey and Senator Toomey, I will candidly admit to you, is quite daunting. Kathy Carr and Jerry Litvin have been role models and mentors to me, and Senator Casey, Senator Toomey, and Senator Greenleaf, you have all been an inspiration in your example of quiet leadership. But in true Jerry McHugh form, he has placed me in a challenging position, knowing that he has prepared me for just these types of moments with his guidance, mentoring, and friendship over these last 18 years. Speaking of friendship, I am here in a couple of different capacities, and first among them is as Jerry's friend. When Tim Lawn called me about 19 years ago about a potential opportunity with the Litvin firm, I jumped at the chance. Once through the vetting process, which I will tell you is much like your nomination process, I started at the firm and I got to know Jerry McHugh. Over time, we began to realize we had mutual acquaintances, mutual interests, and a mutual passion for service. It even turned out that he knew one of my brothers from his high school debating days. Initially, I was not working with Jerry directly, but an opportunity arose and we tried a case together. The rest is history. Once we realized we were cut from the same cloth, coupled with the many different ways our lives had intersected, our bond of friendship was sealed. I'm forever grateful that our paths crossed way back when. Due in part to Jerry's encouragement and mentorship, I became involved with the Philadelphia Bar Association through the Young Lawyers Division, of which I'm obviously no longer qualified. But I remain involved as the co-chair of the Women in the Profession Committee. I would be remiss, Jerry, if I did not pass on to you the congratulations of Chancellor Fadula, who is here in this room, as well as the entire Philadelphia Bar Association. I'm also here on behalf of all of your partners, colleagues, and friends at Rains McCarthy. Jerry and I and some others had the good fortune of being welcomed by Arthur and Stephen Rains into their firm and into their family some 10 years ago. All of us at Rains McCarty are so proud of you, and I think it is safe to say that Arthur would be so proud of you too this day, as he was of you every day. Jerry, there is no doubt that you are sorely missed in the office, and while we are sad to see you go, we take great comfort and pride knowing that now the entire legal community and citizens of this Commonwealth will get the benefit of your intellect, your generosity, your compassion, your dedication to the law, and I'm sure at times your humor. At Rains McCarty, I had the good fortune, well really I was very strategic, in having my office right next to Jerry's. I was able to take advantage of this extraordinary person, his talent, his problem solving, his intellect, not to mention the pastries and other sundries he often brought to the office. I think I've lost about 5 pounds since he's moved on. The carpet, I will tell you, leading to Jerry's office was well worn, and it was worn by the number of people seeking his input on any number of topics, his advice and his wisdom that you've heard about from Jerry Lidford. But it wasn't just worn from those of us at Rains McCarty. It was worn out from lawyers and business leaders across the city and across this Commonwealth seeking his input. I think this traffic was heavy because of the theme we have heard from others here today. It is the intangible asset Jerry brings to the table, something I and I know others deeply admire. His commitment to fairness, his conviction for doing the right thing. Jerry is synonymous with fundamental fairness. It was reflected in his law practice. It is reflected in his pro bono efforts that you've heard about. It is reflected in his community involvement. It is reflected as the patriarch of this lovely family. And it is reflected in his interactions daily with each person he encounters. In order to really understand his sense of fundamental fairness and where it comes from, I want to share with you some of my observations of Jerry's attributes that I've mentioned, as have others here today, particularly his intellect, his generosity, and his compassion. Intellect. When you look this word up in the dictionary, this is what you will find. The capacity for rational or intelligent thought, especially when highly developed. The capacity for rational or intelligent thought, especially when highly developed. Don't you think you're going to see Jerry's picture next to that definition? He is that rare lawyer who combines courtroom ability with intellectual prowess. I have witnessed this watching him from the second chair in the courtroom. I have witnessed this editing pleadings or documents together. I have witnessed it as we strategized how best to advocate for our clients. His intellectual curiosity, balanced with that sense of practical resolve, has allowed him to find a path to justice for his clients. The truth is, whenever Jerry was in the picture, I never had any doubt as to what a special and extraordinary person he is, and our clients never had any doubt that they were so fortunate to have him on their side. As the definition says, everything he touches was and is highly developed, whether it's closing arguments, whether it was crafting strategies, whether it's collecting wine, whether it's discussing the riptide or the current ocean waters, it's highly developed. His intellect is truly astonishing and really knows no boundaries. Generous. When you look this word up in the dictionary, you'll find providing more than the amount that is needed, showing kindness and concern for others, characterized by a noble or kindly spirit. Characterized by a noble or kindly spirit. Again, another definition that embodies Jerry. I use this word generous for him, not just in the traditional sense of giving of his time or his money or his talent, but in the much broader sense. Jerry has been generous with his thoughts. Jerry has been generous with constructive advice. He has been generous with collegiality. He has been generous with collaboration. I speak not only for myself on this point, but also for other colleagues that he has mentored along the way, like my dear friend Tina McLaughlin, when I say he has a gift of allowing you to feel that you are part of the team, that your contribution is important, and that you have made a meaningful impact to the case, to the problem, to the conversation, to the solution. This is true generosity, to share your success, to acknowledge others' gifts, to build others up. Jerry has shared this generous spirit with others and with me for the last 18 years, helping shape me as a lawyer and as a person, and I thank you. Compassion. Sympathetic consciousness of others' distress together with a desire to alleviate it. Once again, this is a fitting description for Jerry. He has always exuded a great and genuine empathy for his clients' plights. Often, it was his compassion for their situation, for their loss, or for their injustice that drove his desire to help. This compassion wasn't just limited to the people he represented. His compassion or passion extended to his colleagues, it extended to his community, and it extends to his commitment to justice. When Jerry believes in a case, believes in a cause, or believes in a person, there is no stopping him. This intellect, this generosity, and this compassion, combined with his forthright, honest, and genuine manner, will serve this court well. There is no doubt that Jerry will render impartial, informed decisions soundly rooted in the law. He is a man with integrity, a lawyer with integrity, a friend with integrity, and now a judge with integrity. Jerry, thank you for inviting me to be part of this special occasion. I leave you with words that have been attributed to Ralph Waldo Emerson. To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived, this is to have succeeded. Jerry, you have surely succeeded, and you will continue to succeed on this bench. I and all of your colleagues and friends congratulate you. This next step in your life journey is really the perfect step for you. Thank you.
We will now have a reading of the Presidential Commission by Michael Kunz, Clerk of the Court.
Please the Court. Barack Obama, President of the United States of America. To all who shall see these presents, greeting. Know ye that reposing special trust and confidence in the wisdom, uprightness, and learning of Gerald Austin McHugh, Jr. of Pennsylvania, I have nominated, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, to appoint him United States District Judge for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, and to authorize and empower him to execute and fulfill the duties of that office according to the Constitution and laws of the said United States, and to have and to hold the said office with all the powers, privileges, and emoluments to the same of right appertaining unto him, the said Gerald Austin McHugh, Jr., during his good behavior. In testimony whereof, I have caused these letters to be made patent, and the seal of the Department of Justice to be hereunto affixed, done at the city of Washington, this 28th day of March, in the year of our Lord 2014, and of the independence of the United States of America in 238, signed by the President, Barack Obama, and Attorney General Eric Holder.
Come forward. And Mrs. McHugh, do we have the Bible?
Yes.
Okay, you can repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Gerald McHugh,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will administer justice
that I will administer justice
without respect to persons
without respect to persons
and do equal right to the poor and to the rich,
and do equal right to the poor and to the rich,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and perform all the duties incumbent upon me
and perform all the duties incumbent upon me
as a United States District Judge
as United States District Judge
under the Constitution and laws of the United States.
under the Constitution and laws of the United States.
And I will support and defend
And I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I'm next or not. I don't believe
Well, we have a formal welcome from the bench from Judge Diamond.
May I be seated?
Yes, you may.
Am I up, Chief?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. I met Jerry McHugh in the mid-1970s in law school, but then I didn't see him again until 2004 when he and Regina Foley tried a lengthy case in front of me. A veteran, a mentally disturbed, mentally ill patient was discharged by the VA. The next day, he went to his children's home at point-blank range, shot and murdered his 7-year-old daughter and his 18-year-old son, and the children of a neighbor who just happened to be playing in the room. The son was 14 and the other son was 16, and then committed suicide himself. Jerry and Maureen brought suit against the federal government under the Federal Tort Claims Act. And for those of you that are fans of tort reform, the Federal Tort Claims Act encapsulates most of the reforms that have been called for. There is a gross negligence standard of proof. No punitive damages are allowed. There is a cap on the fees allowed. It is a non-jury trial, so you're hearing from the only fact finder who has spoken today, before whom Jerry has appeared. I point all that out because this was an enormously difficult and expensive case to prosecute, requiring lots of expert witnesses, lots of Jerry's and Regina's time, and a very, very tough standard of proof to meet. And if Jerry had lost, the Raines McCarty firm would have simply absorbed all of those out-of-pocket costs in addition to the hundreds, if not thousands of hours that Jerry and Regina had spent representing the mothers of the 4 children, who I believe the mothers are in court here today, the mothers of the 4 children who had suffered so. Jerry did a brilliant job, as did Regina. They prevailed, and their decision was upheld on appeal, Judge McHugh. And I realized rather quickly that, as you've heard, Jerry is a brilliant and gifted man and a brilliant and gifted lawyer, but he is also a man of great humility with a notable absence of self-importance. I don't get a lot of that in my job. And you'll fit right in here, Jerry. It is a great honor to have had Jerry appear before me. I am extremely grateful to Senator Casey and to Senator Toomey for selecting Jerry. I know the president appointed him, but Robert Jackson, who was FDR's Attorney General and was on the Supreme Court, wrote a biography of FDR in which he wrote, among other things, "It is not realistic to hold the president or his attorney general responsible for appointments to the district court benches without recognizing that under our constitutional system, they have lawfully become senatorial selections." And so the senators have done very well, Senator Casey. Thank you for Jerry. It was an honor having you appear before me, Jerry, and it will be an honor to serve with you. Thank you.
overwhelmed by all the kind words, we give you an opportunity to respond.
I believe my family has reserved 10 minutes for rebuttal. A really good lawyer would just sit down. Jerry, and you taught me that, but I feel I have to say at least something. And what I have to say is I have always looked at myself as simply blessed. At a very young age, I realized that life is not fair and that I was simply blessed. I was blessed by being born into a family with a mother and father who loved us so much and were so dedicated to giving us the opportunity to succeed. They had values and standards, and they didn't apologize for them. They demanded we live up to them. I was born into a community that was dedicated to diversity and to the idea that everybody could live together in harmony. And at a very young age, was turned over to the Immaculate Heart of Mary Sisters. And in the space of 8 years, they went from baby boomer America to civil rights America. And from a first grade class that literally had 120 kids in it. And people talk about nuns could be tough. I don't know why he didn't kill us all. I say that as a father of 4, and I'm very proud of my children. These heroic women, trying to educate us. And then in the space of that time, as everyone leaves the city, and there's immigration, and there's unrest, and there's integration, and all of the turmoil that accompanied that. So that literally by 8th grade, and the day after Dr. King was murdered, and the sisters come into class, and all the white kids are on one side of the room, and all the black kids are on the other side of the room. And that was West Philadelphia in 1968. And yet they brought us together. And then into the hands of the Jesuits. Those nefarious Jesuits. Those inspirational Jesuits. And who have shaped me in so many ways for 8 years. And Christian brothers and missionary servants. There are many religious orders here in this room. And I was blessed as a child to experience faith as something vital and inspiring and a call to service, and not as something that was oppressive or something that was doctrinaire. And when a certain senator wanted to know, why do you call yourself a product of the Catholic left? Well, they're here. And when I speak of the Jesuits, my cousin Jack Hoy, a very well-known theologian, is here, and it's because of Father Jack that I got to write my first book at a young age and got to have it published. And I'm going to mention it again, but Phil Restrepo and Tim Rice have dined me out and said, this guy wrote about prison ministry. And so now the public defenders are all buying my book. But at every opportunity, instead of obstacles, I had opportunity. And then I go to Penn Law School and have mentors like Howard Lesnick, who was a role model for Kathy and myself. And then I graduate, and Ned Spaeth takes me as a law clerk, and then Judge Luongo, and mentored me for 2 years. And I just said I feel blessed by all of that. Because of a Christian brother who's here, Joe Schmidt, I met my soulmate, Maureen, at the age of 16, and my conscience. And how rare is it to have that kind of stability over all these years. And so I say I am simply blessed. And then to have Jerry Litvin take me under his wing as a kid, and say, here's the ball, throw strikes. Let me tell you just one quick story about Jerry Litvin. The very first tough cross-examination I had to do of a critical expert in a case, I'm sitting in the court at the lunch break eating my peanut butter sandwich. Litvin comes over and he pats me in the back and he says, listen, kid, I don't know what you say to this guy, but give him a bite of that sandwich. I guarantee you, he'll be tongue-tied. Now, that is mentorship. And I mean it, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm scared to death, and I'm tight as the drum. And what he said is, go get him. Go get him. And then to have not just Jerry as a mentor, but the many colleagues there from the Litvin firm who are here today. And then years later to join Arthur and Stephen and my colleagues who are here today. And let me not forget Dennis Suplee, who, even though I never went back to Schneider after a summer there, he didn't hold it against me. He mentored me all these years. In fact, he said, hell, if Litvin would hire me, I'd go there too. and so really, all I can say is I just feel so blessed. Let me talk two serious notes. talk about faith, and I wrestled today with the idea of do we have an invocation, and I thought, what do you say to such a varied group of people and such a diverse group of people? But also, I think I look at faith, and if it's any religious tradition, I think Gandhi got it right, where he said, faith is about experiments and truth. And that is, can we live a certain way? Can we live to a certain standard? Can we create a certain reality? That's what faith is about. And that's what I've learned. And that's what I try to do. And I like the idea of experiment, because the other thing that strikes me so much is this country of ours is aptly called the American experiment. And it's called the American experiment because it had an ideal, and the ideal is, can many people come together in freedom and govern themselves? And can we, for the least of us, maintain a system of justice that does that? And I'm proud to say, whatever our problems, and heaven knows we have problems, we do an amazing job. So that I can stand as a lawyer on behalf of two mothers who have children of color, toe-to-toe with the United States of America in a federal district court, plead their case, prevail, and show that the rule of law has meaning in the United States of America. That is, I just think, a great thing. I am keenly aware of the responsibility here. And as far as I'm concerned, I have this opportunity because of the support I've had from so many opportunities and so many mentors over the years. And so I thank you, and I'll try not to screw up.
Judge Jerry and Maureen McHugh and their entire family cordially invite all to a reception which will be held in the Edward R. Becker lobby, which is to your right as you leave the ceremonial courtroom. Thank you. Court is adjourned.
Thank you.